I am Dr. Rebecca Sloan, a clinical specialist in men's aging and restorative urology. I am deeply concerned by the number of men I see whose vascular systems are essentially suffocating while they sleep. The tragedy is that these men spend thousands of dollars on daytime supplements, completely unaware that a specific 30-second mistake they make right before their head hits the pillow is actively shutting down their peripheral circulation for the next 8 hours. This is not about feeling a little tired in the morning. This is about a mechanical failure where your body actively paralyzes massive blood flow to your lower extremities during the exact window it is supposed to be repairing them. Every single week, at least a dozen patients sit in my office complaining that their physical vitality has simply vanished, and they have no idea why. They blame their age, they blame their diet, but they never suspect their bedtime routine. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how you are unknowingly triggering a vascular lockdown every single night, and I will give you the exact evidence-based protocol to reverse it. To understand why this nighttime error is so destructive, you must understand the biological necessity of nocturnal blood flow. While you sleep, your body is supposed to shift entirely into a parasympathetic state. This is known as the rest and digest phase. But for men, it is also the critical, non-negotiable period for vascular maintenance. During deep sleep cycles, your brain sends specific autonomic signals that cause the smooth muscle tissue in your pelvic region to completely relax. This relaxation allows massive surges of oxygen-rich blood to engorge the peripheral vessels, a physiological mechanism known as nocturnal tumescence. This is not just a random physical event. It is a mandatory biological process that delivers heavy loads of oxygen to the deep vascular tissues, keeping them elastic, functional, and alive. The problem arises when your pre-sleep habits violently disrupt this autonomic transition. When you make the 30-second mistake of stimulating the sympathetic nervous system right before bed, you flood your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. These are primary stress hormones, and their main mechanical function is severe vasoconstriction. They aggressively clamp down your blood vessels. Even if you manage to fall asleep, your vascular system remains in a defensive, constricted state. According to sleep science data from major clinical institutes, men who sleep with elevated sympathetic tone experience a near total absence of deep nocturnal vascular relaxation. You are effectively starving your lower extremities of oxygen for 8 solid hours. The most common error men make is trying to fix this daytime fatigue with more caffeine or synthetic stimulants, which only further exhausts an already suffocated vascular system. If we want to stop this nocturnal suffocation and restore deep peripheral circulation, we must implement 3 distinct mechanical triggers before bed. The first involves correcting a massive hydration timing error. Many men, terrified of waking up to use the bathroom, completely stop drinking water 3 to 4 hours before bed. This is a profound mechanical mistake. While you sleep, you lose a significant amount of fluid through cellular respiration. If you go to bed already dehydrated, your blood plasma volume drops severely by the early morning hours. Your blood becomes thick and highly viscous, making it incredibly difficult for your resting heart to pump it through the microscopic vessels of your pelvic floor. You must consume a small 4-ounce glass of room temperature water exactly 30 seconds before you lie down. This specific microhydration provides just enough plasma expansion to keep your blood viscosity thin and moving smoothly all night without overloading your bladder capacity. The second mandatory adjustment involves retinal light exposure and the melatonin vascular link. Most men spend the last 30 seconds of their day staring at a bright phone screen to set an alarm or read a message. This artificial blue light hits your retina and instantly signals your pineal gland to halt all melatonin production. Melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. It is a powerful systemic antioxidant and a critical biological trigger for the parasympathetic nervous system. Without that massive melatonin surge, your cortisol levels stay artificially elevated, and your blood vessels remain tightly clamped. You must establish a strict digital curfew 30 minutes before bed, utilizing an amber reading light instead if you need illumination. By allowing natural melatonin to flood your system, you are biologically commanding your blood vessels to dilate and accept deep blood flow. Before we get into the final and most important thermal trigger for nocturnal circulation, I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. The internet is flooded with superficial advice that treats symptoms rather than addressing the actual mechanical reality of the male body. By engaging with this content, you help push rigorous, clinical education to the men who are silently watching their vitality decline, mistakenly believing that aging means inevitably losing their physical capacity. The third component of this protocol is bedroom thermoregulation. The physical transition into deep restorative sleep requires a localized drop in your core body temperature. If your bedroom is too warm, or if you sleep under excessively heavy, non-breathable blankets, your body cannot dump its internal heat. When your core temperature remains high, your brain perceives this as a state of mild physiological stress. To protect your vital organs, it actively restricts blood flow to your extremities. You must lower your bedroom temperature to roughly 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius. This specific thermal environment forces your body to naturally dilate the peripheral blood vessels in your extremities to regulate heat, physically opening the pathways for massive blood flow to your pelvic region while you sleep. For the vast majority of my career as a restorative urologist, I relied exclusively on strict sleep hygiene protocols and behavioral therapy to fix these vascular issues. I had a deep, ingrained skepticism regarding botanical supplements, genuinely believing that no natural compound could possess the biochemical authority to override a chronically disrupted autonomic nervous system. I preferred to trust behavioral modification alone. However, as I tracked my patients over the years, I encountered a persistent and frustrating reality. The behavioral protocols worked flawlessly for many, but there was a distinct group of men who followed every sleep rule perfectly and still woke up completely flat, their vascular systems still rigid. The underlying issue was that decades of age-related prostate enlargement were forcing them to wake up 3 or 4 times a night to urinate. You absolutely cannot achieve deep, vascular healing sleep cycles if your prostate is constantly triggering an awake state. I realized behavior alone was not enough to overcome this anatomical barrier. I began analyzing clinical data on botanical interventions and discovered a specific formulation that profoundly changed my approach. This formulation utilizes saw palmetto, which actively blocks the conversion of testosterone into dihydrotestosterone, significantly relieving the inflammatory pressure on the prostate and stopping those frequent midnight awakenings. It pairs this directly with alpha-lipoic acid, a powerful antioxidant that acts specifically on the peripheral blood vessels, reducing the localized oxidative inflammation that severely compromises circulation in the erectile tissue. When I integrated this exact botanical compound into the routines of my patients, specifically men between the ages of 60 and 68, the clinical shift was undeniable. After roughly 4 to 5 weeks of consistent use, these men were finally experiencing uninterrupted sleep cycles. And more importantly, they reported the consistent return of deep nocturnal vascular activity. This is a targeted, natural intervention that allows the body to actually rest, filter, and repair. Because finding these exact, pure compounds without heavy metal contamination or synthetic fillers is extremely difficult, I have placed the direct link to the precise formulation I recommend in the pinned comment below. You can navigate there after the video to review the rigorous clinical specifications for yourself. Understanding the absolute necessity of this nocturnal blood flow is what separates men who age with vitality from men who rapidly decline. When your pelvic and peripheral tissues are deprived of deep, oxygen-rich blood flow night after night, the smooth muscle cells literally begin to atrophy. They lose their natural elasticity, and are slowly replaced by rigid collagen fibers. This is why the loss of morning vitality is never just a temporary issue. It is a clear, mechanical warning that your vascular infrastructure is physically degrading. In my clinical experience, the men who dismiss their poor sleep habits as just a normal part of getting older are the exact same men who present with severe, irreversible circulatory failure a few years later. Protecting your sleep architecture is not about simply feeling rested. It is about physically preserving the vascular networks that keep you functioning as a healthy man. We have completely broken down how sympathetic nervous system overdrive destroys your nocturnal blood flow and how implementing precise microhydration, retinal light management, and thermal regulation can reopen those vital vascular pathways. I want you to tell me in the comments, do you find yourself waking up multiple times between 2 and 5 in the morning? And do you feel physically drained rather than rested when your alarm goes off? Let me know your exact experience below. The smooth muscle tissue in your peripheral vascular system requires nightly engorgement to stay oxygenated and alive. But this tissue's ability to regenerate is highly dependent on timing. If you allow this nightly hypoxic starvation to continue, the physical atrophy of those vessels will eventually cross a critical threshold where they can no longer expand, regardless of what aggressive medical treatments you try later. The targeted natural support we discussed today is meant to work directly alongside your sleep habits, providing the biological relief your prostate and blood vessels need to actually enter those healing sleep cycles. The link to the exact formulation I utilize to protect my patient's vascular integrity is in the pinned comment for your careful review. Remember, waiting for your circulation to fail completely before taking action is the single most expensive mistake a man can make with his long-term health.